Shooter Breeze topic number 4 tonight says, look who they're using to attack Africa's Stream. Well, Sekou Touré right. And by Sekou Touré, here's a quote: if the enemy is not doing anything against you, you are not doing anything. So, we talked about Africa Stream just last week, actually, about how it's good. In fact, it was Oni who was talking about it, how it was good-looking propaganda and what we need to be aiming to put out there. And so here, this week, we have Africa Stream being watchdogged. So this is a tweet from Africa Stream itself on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow them as well. Africa Stream responds to NBC accusing us of misinformation. Africa Stream has been anticipating the day when self-appointed media watchdogs will come for us. Now, it has this icon saying thread, but I don't see more to this. So I just see this one thing, and I see a symbol here. It looks like it's one of those swipe type deals, but I don't see a thread here. So NBC News reporter Marquise Francis wrote to African Stream asking us to comment on allegations we're spreading misinformation targeting Black audiences. He didn't cite any examples, but we gave him the courtesy of response regardless. Swipe through to see his 2 emails and our response. So that's where the problem starts. Let me see if I could quickly go to their site and see if I could find this same if I could find this post, and if this post has a thread on there. So bear with me. I'm going through Africa Stream. Sorry, I stopped sharing the screen. I didn't have to do that. Okay, so here's Africa Stream. And I'm trying to find this one particular post. So let me see something. If I could find it over here. So this post that I originally put up was from July. People still busting firecrackers, I see. It's from July of 2024, so we went back too far. Maybe they took it down, actually. Maybe that could be what's going on. Let me go back. Yeah, all these. This is really strange. All these tweets stop at April 14, 2023. So I don't know exactly where this came from, if it's something that they took down. But what we could speak to in the meantime is the notion of, hold on. What we can speak to in the meantime is the notion of misinformation. A large company like NBC News, not citing any particular thing, but stating that this Twitter account is dealing in misinformation targeted to Black audiences. What we can speak to what that really kind of means. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. I just got some saying something wasn't connected or something. So I guess we could speak to the idea of NBC News accusing Africa Stream of basically propagandizing its people, as if NBC isn't doing the same thing. Let me start with Real Black Gentleman. What are your thoughts on this? Let me see. In the meantime, while you're speaking, I'll look to see if I can figure out why I can't see the whole thread. Go ahead.
I mean, how? Let me give me like 5 seconds. Hold up. I got you. All right. Khalid Muhammad. When white folks can defeat you, they'll always find some Negro, some boot-looking, buck dancing, bamboozled, half-baked, half-fried, sissified, punkified, pat. You know, that I mean, I mean, it is what it is. NBC, yo. I mean, we gotta understand how they work. Like, they know what's going on. Like, they are the spies, yo. They's the espionage. You know what I'm saying? They just, it's just a form of intelligence gathering, yo. It's all it is. And so, like, when you have people who, I mean, I don't know, like, I'm not big. I mean, I get like sharing knowledge and like what's going on in the greater, broader world type stuff, but like to try to mine and like story craft, that's what this is. And the whole idea of you is allegations. That's all it takes is an allegation. What is an allegation? It's a 4-letter big syllable word that people try to use when people talk about like casting spells on people. Allegate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so like, it's like, it's just, and this dude, you know what I'm saying, just trying to be good and saying, oh, there's a problem. Some people are saying that there's a problem. Like, and like, you really like bring that out and like make that like bald face, like open like that. We talking about like black people, you know what I'm saying? Someone, white boy got, don't wound him up, put a battery in his back, and you know what I'm saying, go out there, you know what I'm saying, see these Negroes, call them some trouble, you know what I'm saying, make some noise, you know what I'm saying, get, you know what I'm saying, tell them get back out in the field, you know what I'm saying, get on back on the plantation, you know what I'm saying, so don't be thinking about, you know what I'm saying. It's all that it amounts to. I can't. Marquise Francis, you know what I'm saying? Francis. They probably picked his name because his name is Francis, and France, and that's supposed to be benign. I'm just like, let up down my guard. What they'll do is they'll like play the like, well, black people like support it for it's some dumb stuff, but like I could just, that's just stuff off the top. I know it's nonsense. I know why it's nonsense, but they're just trying to invalidate, black people on black people's own terms. And this is not about, particular policy or anything like that. It's just black people's terms, black people expression and espousing their empirical, you know what I'm saying, it's subjective, you know what I'm saying, it's call it bias, it's they subject matter, what they talking about, and just sending in the good one to go down and kind of like tamp it down and say some people are saying something's bad. Why would you do that? I'm gonna pass the mic.
I appreciate that, RBG. Thanks for being the first one to speak up there. So I was able to figure it out. I had to sign in, I guess. So again, this is the first part of a thread. NBC reporter Marquise Francis wrote to African Stream asking us to comment on allegations we're spreading misinformation targeting black audiences. He didn't cite any examples, but we gave him the courtesy of response regardless. Swipe through to see his 2 emails and our response. So this is the black man from NBC, Marquise Francis. This takes us to the second part of the thread that says, well, America's national broadcasting company, NBC News, recently had its knives out after we were named in a new report by Onyx Impact as one of a number of platforms allegedly targeting black communities with quote-unquote misinformation. So these are emails from Marquise Francis. Let me see if I can make it bigger. His first email from Marquise Francis to African Streams says, African Stream, good afternoon. My name is Marquise, and I'm a reporter with NBC News. I'm working on a write-up on a forthcoming report that takes a deep dive into online networks that it claims targets black audience with misinformation and includes your company. I am reaching for comment about whether you feel as though this is an accurate or inaccurate statement of the work that you all do and how you would like to respond to critics that say you share misinformation that hurts Black communities. Additionally, I would love to include how you would characterize the work that you do. I have a Wednesday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time deadline, and thank you in advance for your time. Best, Marquis. Second email. Let me see if there's a better one. So there was a second email. It says, one update. My deadline is Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, not Wednesday. Thanks in advance. So African Stream continues the thread. It says, the fact that NBC couldn't cite a single example of this in our case didn't seem to bother the broadcaster much. So African Stream's response says, hi, Marquise. Francis, thank you for your email and for allowing us to respond. However, you should accurately indicate what we are accused of for us to respond adequately. It would be more in line with customary practice to lay out the allegations in detail with examples of what you mean by misinformation and allow us to respond to the examples you cite. You have not done that. Instead, you send us two emails. In the second email, you move the deadline for us to respond from Wednesday to Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which gives us less than 24 hours. Again, this is not customary practice, but we will deal with it as professionals. But firstly, to avoid any misinformation on your behalf, you misspelled our media name. We are not Africa Stream, but African Stream. Now, the misspelling of our name suggests to us one of two things. A, you have not done your due diligence about our company, which would explain why you could not cite any examples of our supposed misinformation in your email. Or B, this assignment was handed to you hastily, most likely by a white supervisor who wanted you to do the hit piece because it looks better optically. If we are attacked by someone who looks like us, or as Malcolm X once brilliantly stated, they will pay one of us to kill one of us just to say it was one of us. Okay, African Stream, what do you think? African Stream goes on to say, we feel honored to defend our telling of African stories from an anti-imperialist and pan-African perspective. So this is a continuation of the response. It says, let's answer your questions as directly as we can. You describe us as an online network that, quote unquote, targets Black audiences with misinformation. You are half right, although you mean Black audiences, plural, not audience, singular. We target Black audiences, although we prefer the term African to Black. We do this because we are a Pan-African digital media platform covering affairs concerning Africans at home and in the diaspora. Consequently, we cover events in countries ranging from Sudan, Nigeria, Kenya, Brazil, Jamaica, to the United States. Our team is based in Nairobi, Kenya, and we are run and staffed by Africans, including veteran journalists with expertise in regional and local politics. We present an authentically African perspective, unlike media outlets like NBC News, which represents the view of the American establishment that seeks to economically control and plunder Africa. To continue, African Stream says, here you can read our response to NBC's Marquise Francis when he sounded us out for comment. So this is the continuation. Now on to your more serious and defamatory allegation that we spread misinformation. Not sure how you do journalism at NBC, but at African Stream, we ensure that our journalists follow the basic principles of point, evidence, explain, PEEP. Simply put, if you are to make a point like you have here, claiming we are spreading misinformation, then you need examples to back up your point, something you have failed to provide. And then finally, to explain how your examples back up your point. You need to drastically improve on two of the three fronts. However, we will still attempt to answer your allegation as simple as we can. No, we do not spread misinformation. We have a vigorous fact-checking process, which means work is checked by 3 different trained journalists 3 times before posting on our platforms. Of course, like all news media, we occasionally make mistakes, but we issue a retraction when that happens. However, this has happened only a few times because our thorough verification process. Again, if you have found any information that we have posted that is not factual, please let us know. And if we agree with your findings, we will issue a retraction of the post and take it down. They go on to say, now we are transparent about our political perspective. Are you open with your audience at NBC about your political leanings and who and what you represent? We must admit we don't follow your site closely, but what does filter through to us comes across as propaganda for Joe Biden's Democratic Party in the U.S. and the U.S. military-industrial complex, which is the opposite of what the media is supposed to do, speak truth to power. We are based in Kenya and have been covering all of the protests against William Ruto's government following the imposition of the IMF-backed 2024 finance bill. We are putting ourselves at risk to speak truth to power in the country in which we are based. Have you done the same? Goes on. He says, we notice that Julian Assange has just been set free after 5 years in Belmarsh's maximum security prison in the UK, battling extradition to the United States for exposing U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq. We noticed NBC's sit-down interview with President Biden on the 26th of November 2020. You didn't ask him a single question about Julian Assange. How come? Since you are concerned with misinformation and protecting journalism, why not ask about the most famous journalist locked up at the request of the United States to the one politician who could have released him with one executive order? Since you are concerned with misinformation, you would know that WikiLeaks has an impeccable record, better than African Streams, as they, unlike us, have never had to retract the story. Yet you don't bring up the case of the WikiLeaks founder to the most powerful politician in the world. What was the purpose of your interview? Was it to ask the newly elected President Joe Biden tough questions, or to bask in the glory of his recent election victory? They go on to say, you see, we cover U.S. politics too, but following the radical Pan-African tradition of criticizing both the Republicans and Democrats, to paraphrase Malcolm X again, both parties are enemies of African people worldwide, including Africans in America. If you check our page, you will see that Trump is as criticized as Biden. A look at your page reveals that, sadly, criticism of Biden is woefully missing. Is supporting, funding, and arming a genocide against Palestinian children not worth criticizing? Or the fact Joe Biden has received over $5.2 billion in support over the last 34 years from Israeli lobby group AIPAC, more than any congressional recipient, according to Open Secrets? Have you ever raised the question of whether this is why he is continuing to arm Israel despite pending cases by the ICJ and ICC against Israel for genocide and war crimes? Please respond to these questions by Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern African time. We hope we have satisfactorily answered your questions. Well, boy, African Streams did their thing here. NBC's reply, right? NBC's reply is, Ahmed, thank you for such a thorough and prompt response. Also, my apologies for inaccurately spelling your company name. I appreciate the follow-up, Marquise. So that's a very interesting thread. I'm glad I was able to figure that out and read that to you guys. But African Stream did their thing with that one. I heard from RBG. RBG, since I've read the entire thing, do you have any follow-up comments now?
Yeah, scroll down again real quick. See dude's icon real quick because of the dude's response. What down more at the end, because you had a little thing where it was like real brief, you know what I'm saying, all curt and whatnot. Yeah, look at that little pink, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the type of micro, aggression type stuff. There's a whole man, like really, like that's how you portray, like for real, like that makes you, you know what I'm saying? I don't like it. Just hey, you got eyes, you got ears, you gotta recognize patterns and themes and stuff. That's all I got to say, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Forecast. What say you to this?
Uh, I'm sorry. My brother had a long, thought out thing, and they hit him with the, "Oh yeah, okay, I got you." My brother hit him with a 2-word response, like, "Okay," like, but I would say, as far as misinformation goes, of course, that's just the way that they do things. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you do something is a bloody something, and when they do something is a hero. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would put a pedal on the side of a mountain, but put you in prison for speeding or something. You know what I'm saying? But I would say, I guess we are like, and my brother only has been talking about propaganda, and I've always said, everything that I say is like propaganda is true, but it's like propaganda, and it is important to have that. But we don't understand as black people. We rather, you know what I'm saying, put on the blackface stuff. But I will say, I think that what we are saying, or you know what I'm saying, is true, because all of a sudden when I came on here, Koku, now everybody busy. Bakari talking about, oh, the place I'm going to is loud. You know what I'm saying? You heard him, Bawana, talk about the place is loud. So I guess we don't have misinformation because nobody come on to correct it. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that forecast. In the chat, Lara says, "I'll be honest though, I've seen Africans attack Africa Stream, or I guess African streams, because they support a lot of leftist politics, especially those pertaining to economics. They don't like the pro-Russia China stances." She says, "I've always supported African streams. They are involved with many grassroots organizations and putting out important information." I want to point out something too. The reason why most of us who are on Twitter, especially would know of Africa Stream or even on YouTube, um, you could tell they have a team, right? They have a team of journalists. Like, these things don't just happen. They don't just work if you leave it up to one person to do. You have to join in and help. And I'm sure a lot of people who help with this stuff aren't necessarily journalists. They're just people who like the content, and besides the journalists who he mentioned, they just like this kind of content, and they like the efforts, and they add to it. So I just want to point that out. Real Black Gentleman in the chat says NBC stays shorting black people's intelligence, or shorting black people's intelligence. Lara says the West is now getting aware to their growing popularity and attacking them to control the propaganda war. Absolutely, that's what I thought. Andy McPhail said Africa Stream puts out a lot of great content from the African perspective. So a lot of you are familiar with them. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, "I'm not a fan of leftists, but they post content on Gaviites too. So I think African Stream is dope overall." Trigger Happy felt like they were annihilating them with the rebuttal, which I think they did as well. Buana, you've heard everything everyone had to say and seen everything everyone said in the chat. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is this, for all the brothers under the sound of my voice, I would say that go on to Amazon and I want y'all to buy a book. Look up the best books on war strategy, and I want y'all to just purchase one book on war strategy and just read it. Find out what the best books on war strategy is and just read it. For forecast, you might, historian, I want you to start discussing subjects in terms of war strategies, because you're a big guy in terms of Virginia and things like that. Many things went on in Virginia, and I can tell you why I'm saying this in a minute. But I think that I want you to teach in terms of war strategies and how these guys went about executing their war strategies within Virginia. I'd really like to hear some history on that. The reason why I say that is, within this email itself, there are some things that I wouldn't have give away. There are some things in terms of what African Stream would have done, I wouldn't have give away. One of the things is telling him where my servers are. Because when you're talking to NBC, you are not talking to NBC. You are talking to the United States government. You are talking to an arm of the United States government. which is the information of the United States government. So when you say that where you are placed in terms of being in Kenya, well, they know where to go now to knock out their servers to make sure that information doesn't go to the people who may want that information. I don't think he should have done that. I think that's a bad tactic. And if he understood war strategy, he would have never mentioned that in his email. That's number one. Number two, I didn't know who. I don't that the fact that now I know who is behind African Stream. I didn't know. I didn't think so many Pan Africans was in Kenya, but I could be wrong about that. But I just wouldn't voluntarily give him too much information in terms of where I am and what I'm doing. Now, in terms of, I have some homework for the brothers too. In terms of this Marcus Francis, find his email. Find what his email is at CNBC, and you all write him too, because African Stream can't take up the fight by themselves. So we must throw rocks at Marquis Francis too, and tell him stop being a stooge. Challenge him. Challenge him. All these people, all the brothers on this panel have excellent opinions from time to time. Well, find his email and go challenge him. Throw a rock in his direction saying stop being a stooge, brother. Find another job. Because when you see his face, you don't see the face that's behind him. And we all know who the face is behind him, who making him volunteer this, giving this information. And notice the information that African Stream give and the information NBC News give. Because what he wrote back to him, he didn't get into the details of who he was and where he was coming from or the university and what. He didn't give him none of that at all. He just said, thank you for the information. Now I know. So African Stream volunteered more information on his end as opposed to this man. That's first and foremost. I'll leave that alone. What I want to talk about is the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Because the difference between misinformation and disinformation is intention. Misinformation is saying that I am sending out information or false or bad information unknowingly. Basically saying that I was incompetent and I didn't know what I was doing. But I given this information out to people, and I targeted people with information that's incorrect, but I didn't have intentions of doing that. This information is intentionally giving out information that I know to corrupt the minds of people. But I clever enough to know it's bad information, but I do it anyways for specific purposes and reasons. So I cleverly am evil in what I'm doing, but I at least know my job. You know what I mean? They calling me incompetent by saying that I spread rumors and gossip and misinformation. Like I don't know better. But disinformation is intention. There's an information war going on in the world right now, where you see these established media like NBC News, ABC, and all these other medias. Then you see other news streaming services and platforms via YouTube, like African Stream with the Africans in Kenya. Since we know them now, they volunteer information. Then you have YON from the Indians. We play their clips from time to time with alternative information in terms of what's going on in the world. You had Russia Today, which was from out of Russia with Abiy Martin and what they was doing back in the day. They cut that shit off because they don't want the general public exposed to certain information in the world. Not voluntarily. And platforms like this, which get shadow banned because you don't want certain kinds of information or the Western media or Western audiences exposed to certain kinds of information in terms of what's going on in the world. They want that to restrict that heavily. So these guys are in an information war, whether they know it or not. And you have to be intelligent and smart in how you go about voluntarily giving information that you should not. Because as I say, when you're speaking to these people, you're speaking to the United States government. So I would just tell the brothers in Kenya, yes, you are unapologetically Pan-African organization, but you have to be strategic in terms of warfare and how you practice your information war and spread information to your people throughout the planet. You have to be intentional and you have to be smart and understand that you are in an information war and practice information and practice war strategics. War is not only fought on a battlefield, physically fighting. Sometimes it's an intellectual war, it's a war of words, it's a health war, it's all kinds of different kinds of wars. You know what I mean? So you have to be intelligent in how you go about doing kinds of things. We got to be smart now in these days and times. We see this face, this black Marquise fella with his face, but we all know the person who is behind him is an old white man or an old bunch of white men, very afraid that they can't corrupt the minds of African people because these people are presenting themselves as a buffer class of people who are presenting alternative information, so much so that they are writing these people. So I would say to be intelligent about how you move to the world now. You can't be simple-minded and stupid.
I appreciate that, Bonnie. Yeah, and
You
I
can't be
actually agree.
simple-minded and stupid. But email this guy, email him, man, and tell him stop being. Sorry, cool.
No. It had your sound had cut out. I thought you had stopped, and so that's why I cut in. I apologize. I think you might be on a little bit of a delay too. It's all good though. But I agree with what you said too. They gave up a little bit. It reminded me of Maurice Bishop. Bishop in trying to defend himself.
Go ahead, Coco. It's just my
Bishop in trying to defend himself. Well, trying to defend himself and his country against the allegations that they were building some airport for Russia on the country. He kind of gave away too much information, right? With that said, Erzuliism in the chat said that was a fake jab by NBC to get their location, but good for them. So Erzuli agrees with you. Kofi, the black critic, said that most blacks on white media is vetted. He goes on to say, when a person of color go off script, when they get fired like Don Lemon and Madai Hassan. Trigabi 262 Plus says there got to be more of a link with digital and informational platforms like an African Stream with Bibi Toomey to really take into gear the information war. Yeah, I think that's a well stated idea, Trigger. I think about that a lot. But it's about the resources. If they could join those two things, a social media site for African people with a digital media site like African Streams, where when you go on that social media, everything is geared to put in front of the eyes of the users some propaganda, some positive propaganda when it comes to Africa, when it comes to being African. That'll be great. I've thought about it before too, but I kind of, it takes a lot of resources to do this stuff, but it would have been great to create a social media platform that incorporated or different podcasts and different types of media and stuff like that. But we'll see if someone is inspired to do that one day. RBG in the chat says they seek to extract and refine and isolate the Negroid aspect against Africans. Trigger says, to be fair though, wouldn't their location already be public? I think America would have known their location by now. I always think about that too. What I do say, first, I always think about, well, they probably know who you are and where you are anyway, IP addresses and all this type of stuff. Or perhaps you're using a VPN, but even that can trace back to your location. But I like to think of it as, if they happen to not have the information, let me not give it to them readily. So I think to err on the side of caution is still smart to do. Does anyone have any last thoughts for this prompt here? If not, we can go to what's probably going to be the last prompt of the night. So have a lengthy conversation on it. We're going to end at 11 p.m. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 simply says, dating in your 40s. Dating in your 40s. This comes with a link. I like everyone in the chat to post all their thoughts. I like to read all of them on air. I like to hear a full discussion from the panelists. I'm going to play, I think it's 10 minutes of this video, and then we'll have hopefully a robust conversation.
Hey, I can't hear it.
I can't hear anything either.
No sound? Let me see what the hell could possibly be going on. Okay, y'all bear with me. I'll try to get the sound going. I don't know why it wouldn't have sound. Let me see. The audio. Okay. Let me stop sharing for a second. Let's stop sharing and I'll bring it back to the start. And, you know, it did say something earlier about audio connection was whatever lost or something in one of the earlier prompts. I guess I haven't used the sound since then. To that last prompt, Razulism said by location, we also mean their thought process too. That's a good point. Good point there as well, Razuli. Just a reminder,